if anybody tells you you're coming to the UK to work and then be able to pay your school fees, that's a wrong advice.
Hi, good day. Before we start, I would like you to introduce yourself so the viewers know who you are.
Kayode Emola. I'm a property investor. I did applied marine geosciences, so I would like to say I'm a scientist as well. I've worked in the bank as a risk manager, so I've got some experience in risk management as well.
Okay, so what nationality are you?
I would like to say I'm from Yoruba country in West Africa.
Oh, okay. How long have you been in the UK?
I've been in the UK since October 2010, so that's about 10 years plus now.
Wow, really a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, if you don't mind me asking, before you became a professional, yeah, how did you come to the UK?
I came to the UK through a scholarship, so I got a scholarship from the Niger Delta Development Commission for $30,000 US. So that was able to pay my tuition and my upkeep.
Okay, so you were a student then?
Yeah, I came to be a student. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now we have a lot of students coming into the UK presently, yes, for educational purposes. Yeah. So what would be your advice to people who are thinking of coming to the UK for studies?
Thank you. For those who are coming to the UK for studies, my advice would be check the course you're doing first. Make sure it is something you like, because we've seen people who come and they don't even know the course they're studying, or they come, it's not something they have passion for. So check the career prospect of that course you're doing. If you finish the course, what are you going to do after? So my advice would be, when you're coming to the UK, once you know your course and you know your university you're going, go online. All universities in the UK have a website. Check the course director, check the course administrator, talk with them, email them, write them, if possible call them, speak with them, tell them to introduce you to people who are already studying those courses. Speak with those students, what are their experiences, what are the challenges you would face, so that when you come, you are prepared for dealing with those challenges, because they will be there, irrespective of the time you come. It's just how you deal with those challenges. So those would be my initial advice for anybody thinking to do any study in the UK.
Wow, that's really good advice. Yeah, so in your own experience, do you think that people coming to the UK for studies as an individual, so not married, yet they don't have partners, and people coming to the UK with families have the same experience?
Thank you for that question. It's a different experience. Those coming as singles and those coming as a married couple, they're two different experiences. Like in the area where I live, in Bangor University, it's geared towards students, so it's geared towards single occupation, and majority of the houses are built to accommodate single occupancy. So when you're now coming with a family, with i.e. husband, wife, or wife, husband, and children, it becomes a whole kettle of fish. So the houses here are not adapted, not many houses are adapted to cater for families. So in the end, you may discover that if you're now a family, you're living outside of the university area, and that will be other logistics that you have to put in place, like transportation and timing and things that you have to factor. So there are two different experiences, i.e. for a single person or for married couple and children.
Yeah, so that's really good answer. I want to pick on something you said. So you spoke about the fact that accommodation is something that students may struggle with. So please, can you elaborate? So what factors would you say they should consider if they're going to look for accommodation while they're studying?
Yeah, accommodation is a very tough situation now in the UK for people who are coming. There are quite a lot of things that goes into getting an accommodation, which a lot of people don't know. Now, before you get an accommodation, there are some checks that a landlord or their agents need to carry out. 3 of those checks are we call them background checks. So they check your financial status, they check your criminal record, and then they check your employment status. So for your criminal record, they want to make sure you've not been involved in crime, petty crime, or where you're coming from. So and it's categorized into three factors. So the low risk, medium, and high risk. So you coming from outside the country, you have no record in the United Kingdom. So automatically it drives you to the high risk category because they have no record for you. And if you don't have any record, you become high risk. The second one is the financial factor. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're doing any job in whatever country you've come from, whether Caribbean or Africa or Asia, you're going to be leaving that job and coming to the UK. So automatically you don't have any job going forward. So the landlord wants to be sure that you have enough to pay his rent at the end of the month. So some calculations do it. There's some depends on which agency is doing the check. They multiply the rent by either 24 or 30. So if you're earning, say, if the rent is say £1,000 and they're multiplying it by 30, which is 30,000. So you need to be able to show the landlord that you're earning 30,000 to be able to afford the rent. And if you cannot put that, then because you don't have a job, then you already fall into the high risk. So that's
Wow.
A challenge that many international students or international families face when they first move to the UK.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, I'm sure because you're a real estate developer, you have access to this information that some of us don't even have. Yeah, thank you for that point. But I want to pick on something you just said, which is jobs. So I've spoken to a couple of international students and they say that, their plan was maybe, or their friend's plan or people they know was to come in and use their job to pay their tuition. In your own opinion, is this a good advice?
I don't know where they're getting those advice from, but if anybody tells you you're coming to the UK to work and then be able to pay your school fees, that's a wrong advice. Now, before you apply for your visa, there are some criteria the UK border agency stipulates. And one of the criteria is that you should have your tuition fee ready and money for upkeep for 9 months at least to be able to fit into the society, and they stipulate how much it is. If you go on their website, you'll be able to see that depending on the area you're moving to in the UK. Now, the European directives is that every worker needs to work for 42 hours a week. 42 hours, the average working hours, say maybe in some countries which are 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, that's 8 hours. So if you're working Monday to Friday, that's 40 hours. So 2.5 hours of those are your breaks, whereas the 37.5 hours is the time you actually work. So, but as a student, you need to commit time to your studies because you're coming here to study, you're not coming here to work. You need to commit 20 hours to your studies. So the government now say you can then have 20 hours to work. So there's no way you can work 20 hours and think you can save that money to pay your tuition fee. It's not going to be enough. That money could be able to afford you your petty essentials like food, toiletries, rent, and some other stuff, but it's not going to be enough for you to pay your school fees.
Yeah, so in that, very good advice. So in your opinion, you should actually follow the UK's directive.
Yeah, you should follow. The directive is there for a reason, so you should follow the directive. Make sure you have your school fees saved before you start going.
Okay, thank you for that advice. Okay, so my other question is also related to job. So in your own opinion, is it easy for an international students to come to the UK and get a professional job, quote unquote?
Yeah, it's you can, but it's very difficult. Because if you want to come to work in the UK, you should apply for jobs, and if the employer see that your certificate matches that job, they will give it to you. But whilst you're coming in as a student, you already have limitations with the time you can work, and most organizations want to have you on a full-time basis and not on a part-time basis. So it's very difficult for them to employ you. And because there's a restriction on your visa that you can only work 20 hours, some of the work they have might exceed that 20 hours. So it might be difficult to get a professional job whilst you're working as a student.
Okay, thank you so much. That's very much good advice. What advice would you have for an international student? What is the best thing they should do when they arrive in the UK, in your opinion?
Yeah, first thing you would do, like I said, before you get to the UK, try to get to the course director, the course administrator. Try to get to know students that are already either in the course or in the community that are in the same country from where you have come from. They will be able to put you through. Ask them. In these days now, you have things like WhatsApp. When we came, there was nothing like WhatsApp or societies where you can, and if there is none, try to set something up. So when you come, before you come, start asking about accommodation, start putting steps in place, start knowing where you would stay when you get to the UK. Don't get here and then start looking for accommodation. You may end up sleeping on the streets, and that will be detrimental to your health. UK is a cold country, and it doesn't matter what time you come in the year, either in the September session or in the February session. These are cold times, so you don't want to end up sleeping on the street. So put all those things in place before you come, so that when you come, your stay would be meaningful.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so contact your university, try to get access to the housing units. Yeah, try to talk to people, connect, and be able to find accommodation before you come, so before you don't sleep on the street. Families coming with kids, do you have like a different advice for them if one of the spouse is coming as an international student?
Yeah, spouses coming with kids as well. It's going to be similar advice, but a lot of people think whilst coming, they can just get Airbnb or rented or holiday. That's expensive, no doubt. It's a temporary stop, but that should be a last result and not your starting point. A lot of people use that as their starting point. That I would rent a hotel, and then at the end of the day, you might end up spending more than you have even budgeted for. So I've seen a family who came and they went to Swansea. They got here before starting to look for accommodation. They rented Airbnb, and for a month they've spent over £3,000 in Airbnb fare, which is expensive. So what I would say is get in touch with people. I know it's difficult to do viewings whilst you are not in the country, but start speaking with people who are in place, parley with somebody, build rapport with somebody who is already in town who can help you, and then you can once you come, start visiting all the estate agents. Go to the high street, visit as many estate agents, pour in all their books and look at whatever is available and start it, so that you get that time ahead of you. And if you can get something before you come, it's even better.
Thank you so much for that answer. Yeah, I have another question for you. How easy is it to get a job immediately you arrive in the UK?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. A lot of people I've come across a lot of people who think when they come to the UK, they start job the following day. This is what you need to know. In the UK, is not like any other country. With the UK, there's something you need to get before you can start working, which is the National Insurance Number. They call it, or some people call it NINO. You need that number to give to your employer, because that number is directly linked to your tax with the HM Revenue and Customs. So, and that takes about 2 to 3 weeks before you could even get that number. So it's not come to the UK and you start a job immediately. So some people have that notion that if I get to the UK, I will start a work today. And another thing I know is there is nowhere in the work where they pay you before you start your work. You work before you get paid at the end of the month. So don't come to the UK thinking I will work, make money, and then pay school fees, or I will work, make money, and then pay my rent. Make sure you have all those things before you come to the UK, and whatever work you do is a supplement to what you already have, not the main income you're wanting to rely on.
Okay, thank you so much for that answer. Yeah, so let's go back to the family question. So how easy is it to manage a family in the UK while one of the spouse is an international student?
Thank you. That's a very good question. Family is one of the toughest things to manage in the UK. It's not like in Africa where you can leave your kids with your neighbor or leave your kids without even caring for them. Your child, up until they're, I think 16 or 18, you have to monitor them like you're monitoring a toddler. So it's very difficult. If one parent is in school, then one parent needs to be with the children at home. Except if you have to put them in a daycare or day nursery, depending on which one, or childminder, and those are also very expensive for people who have just come to the UK as new entrants. The only other thing that you could do, like I said, trying to get to know your community. If you know your community and you know a lot of people who are going through similar situations, you could form a bubble. Either a bubble of 3 or a bubble of 4 or 5, maximum 5. Don't make it too much. And then if one person can volunteer a day, and then you can do it in rotation, then you know that you're giving back to others and others are giving you. In that way, you can be able to plan your timetable. Without that, you may have to resort to the main conventional, sending your children to school, but that's also limited because if you send them to nursery, some nurseries are open between 8 to 6. So maybe for a family who has to work maybe nights or other things, other times that are not 9 to 5 or 10 to 4, some jobs you may need to do it at night. So you will have to figure out how that time fits into your own affair as well. Traveling to the UK is like traveling to a new place. It could be anywhere. It could be Canada, it could be Australia, it could be an Arab country, it could be an Asian country, it could even be another African country. Try to get as many information as possible. Don't just pick up your bags and get to the airport and think once you come out to the airport all your problems will be solved. You need to know where you're going, you need to know people you're going to meet, you need to find out about their culture, about their way of life and things. Try to fit into the society and try to give to their society as well. You're not just only coming to tap from them, you also want to give them. They also want to learn from where you've come from. They want to learn about your ecology, they want to learn about your people, they want to learn about your way of life. Don't be scared to showcase your culture to them. Don't be scared to showcase your tradition to them. They also want to learn. As much as they want to showcase their own culture to you, they want you to also bring in your culture and your personality as well. Try to be friendly. Don't just think of what you would get. Think of what you can give to where you're going to contribute to their own society. And above all, remember that when you're coming in as a student, your ultimate goal is to get a certificate that will enhance, not just a certificate, but the skills to be able to function in the society. So let that be your primary focus. That at the end of my 1 year, what skills have I gained? How am I going to use it to better my life, the life of my family, and the life of my immediate society? So those things should always be at the back of your mind, and every other thing is secondary. So keep the primary thing the primary focus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to take this opportunity to thank you on behalf of all the viewers. We know you're a very busy man. Thank you for taking your time to actually explain and help international students coming to the UK for the first time. Is it okay to say if we have questions underneath this video, we can invite you again and you can humbly adhere to our request and come back for an interview if you have more questions?
I would be glad to do it again. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.